Good evening. I'm Tom Carson, President of the League of Women Voters of Glendale, Burbank, and I would like to welcome you all to the candidate forum tonight. As we begin our evening of democracy in action, let us begin with the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The League of Women Voters was started in 1920 after women won the right to vote. For 40 years now, the League has been open to both women and men. Our local organization was formed here in 1940, so we are celebrating our 75th anniversary this year. We are strong supporters of the election process, and the League joins the City of Burbank in supporting the I Vote for Burbank campaign, encouraging voters to not only vote themselves, but to reach out to family members and friends to vote as well. For the February 24th election, the deadline for registering to vote or to changing your registration is Monday, February the 9th. The questions you will be hearing tonight are questions we have received from the public. We hope the candidates will find these questions to be challenging, enabling the voters to make an informed decision. Tonight's candidate forum rules call for adherence to the terms of civil discourse by both candidates and the public. The hallmark of democracy is the willingness of all members of our community to treat each other with courtesy and respect, not just those people that we happen to agree with. It is in that spirit that we are here this evening to engage in a vital part of our democratic process, a civilized discussion of the important issues that confront our communities. So I want to thank all of the candidates and the audience for being here tonight. The League also thanks the City of Burbank for once again providing voters with the opportunity to view the forum both in person here tonight and via rebroadcast on the Burbank channel and streaming on the city's YouTube channel. We are particularly grateful for the assistance of the Burbank Public Information Office. We have many of our League members here tonight working to make this forum happen. Included are our timekeepers, Mickey Pierce and Bill Carson, our question sorters, Chris Carson and Mary Dixon, our audience greeters, Joylene Wagner and Renee Leisk. And now I would like to introduce our moderator for this evening's forum, Rita Zwern. Rita is a longtime League member with much experience in moderating forums. We are grateful to Rita and the many hours that she dedicates to the League and to our community. Rita?
My apologies. Thanks, Tom. Good evening and welcome. This forum will be broadcast this evening and then at various times until the election date on the Burbank channel and the YouTube channel of the City of Burbank. No reproduction or rebroadcast of this forum may be made without the prior written permission of the League of Women Voters and the City of Burbank. No digital or other forms of photography or recording are permitted in these chambers during the forum. The audience here tonight is invited to submit written questions for the candidates. Please raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question, and one of the monitors will provide you with a card and pencil. Questions will be collected only during the opening statements and the first question. We would request that the audience turn off all cell phones and pagers, and that they refrain from applauding or otherwise disrupting the forum. If a candidate's supporters are disruptive during another candidate's remarks, the other candidate will be given additional time to compensate for the interruption. Additionally, attacks of a personal nature, including private matters having no bearing on a candidate's public persona or ability to perform the duties of the office in a competent, ethical manner, will not be tolerated. If a candidate makes a personal attack during his or her remarks, the time required for me to interrupt the candidate and remind him of the rule will be taken from his own speaking time. I'd like to begin by introducing the candidates for the Burbank City Council. They are in ballot order. Councilmember Emily Gable Luddy, Juan J. Guillen, Sharon A. Springer, Will Rogers, Elise Stearns Neeson, Christopher John Rosati, and David Noss. Each candidate will be allowed 1 minute for an opening statement. There will be a total of 8 questions during the forum. The initial question will be addressed to all the candidates at the forum, beginning with candidate number 1. Although this is not our standard process, in light of the importance of this question, and to ensure that all the candidates have sufficient time to consider their response, we have previously provided this question to all of the candidates. Each candidate will be allowed 2 minutes to respond to the question. Following this initial question, there will be 7 more questions, each question addressed to a separate candidate, beginning with candidate number 2 and ending back with candidate number 1. None of these questions have been provided to any of the candidates prior to the forum. For each question, the particular candidate will be allowed up to 2 minutes to respond. Following these questions, there will be an open round, where each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to address any of the forum questions not previously addressed to him or her. Following the question period, the candidates will be given 2 minutes each for a closing statement. During the opening and closing statements and the question responses, our timekeepers will alert candidates to the time remaining with signs of 1 minute, 30 seconds, and then a stop sign when they are out of time. We'll now begin with opening statements. Ms. Gable Luddy, your 1 minute opening statement, please.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Burbank. Good evening, members of the audience. This is an important opportunity for you as voters to assess the candidates for City Council. When I first got on council 3.5 years ago, the city was faced with an $8.5 million deficit. And through hard work and working together, we were able not only to erase that deficit, but to have a small surplus today, without doing furloughs or layoffs of our city employees. It's important, in addition to that, this year, beginning for the next 5 years, we will have $1.2 million per year set aside additionally to repair our city's streets, specifically our residential streets. When I was your mayor, it was my privilege to serve you 200%. I'm committed to work with all segments of the community for a strong economy, to protect our neighborhoods, maintain our first-class services, and support school-based counseling and after-school care for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Guillen, your opening statement, please.
Hello, I'm Juan Guillen. Over the past several years, I've noticed the deterioration of our roads, the increasing traffic congestion, the increasingly dense development that negatively impacts our community, ineffective and inefficient spending of your tax dollars. And time again, I have witnessed frustrated residents who feel their voices haven't been heard. I believe we can do better. I believe I will bring youthful energy to your council. I will provide a different perspective, one of a resident, small business owner, and of a veteran that has served our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Springer, your 1 minute opening statement, please.
Sharon Springer, thank you very much for coming. I love Burbank, and it has been my home for over 23 years. I have a master's degree in city and regional planning and an undergraduate degree in geography. I've always used my education in the private sector. First, as a commercial real estate appraiser, I'm a non-practicing MAI member of the Appraisal Institute. Next, I was a business owner and was awarded 5 patents and developed and marketed those products nationally and internationally. I now work in nonprofit administration for an organization that sets up quality of life programming in senior communities. I've been on the Sustainable Burbank Commission for over 5 years. I volunteer time with the Burbank Farmers Market Advisory Board, the UC Cooperative Extension, and the Burbank Community Day School. youth at risk. I'm running for City Council because I can make a positive difference in the way our city moves forward. I will encourage inclusiveness and increase public engagement with an attitude of collaboration, creativity, cooperation, and gratitude. Through door knocking, I hear your concerns loudly and clearly, and I will serve you. Thank you for your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers, your opening statement, please.
Thank you. My name is Will Rogers, and I'm running for honest, open leadership in City Hall. I've never run for office before, and I will not seek higher office. But just as I've advocated as a journalist in this very chamber, too, for almost 25 years, my priorities begin with assuring that city officials and residents are given complete, reliable, and independent information, and that citizens know what their representatives are doing and why. These are a means to, among other things, restore Burbank's quality of life, reduce traffic, diversify and stabilize our economy and our budget, partner more with schools, protect our environment, encourage business development that respects neighborhoods, and apply common sense to council decisions. And all of this will help protect our city services we've become accustomed to for decades now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Stearns-Neeson, your opening statement, please.
Thank you. My name is Elise Stearns-Neeson. I'd like to first start by thanking the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum for us tonight. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised here in Burbank. I went through the Burbank schools, and I worked my way through college working for the city of Burbank. I value the small town feel that we have here in Burbank. I appreciated it growing up, and I appreciate it as a homeowner now. I believe there are specific things that we can do to maintain the quaintness of Burbank. First, we must protect our neighborhoods from the problems that have plagued other cities, such as traffic, parking problems, and improper development. I'm especially adamant about fully funding our police and fire services to keep our community safe. I think it is also vitally important to work on all the water issues, so that vital amenity is a resource that we have a year from now. I am Elise Stearns-Neeson, and those are just a few reasons why I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rosati, your opening statement, please.
To everyone at the Jocelyn Center who asked me to say hello, thank you for watching. My name is Chris Rosati, and I'm running for Burbank City Council in 2015. I've been fortunate to live in Burbank my entire life. In fact, I've lived in every residential zip code within our city. As a small business owner, real estate broker associate, I understand budgets, marketing, and thinking outside the box. I want to talk to you about a better Burbank and why I'm running for City Council. I believe I'll be the best candidate with the most relevant experience. I've held many positions in leadership with a proven track record of success and service. Currently, I'm the Vice Chair of the Planning Board, where I have publicly voted on projects that affect our city. We need to balance our small town feel with the physical challenges of today, meet sustainability requirements, and always provide the same excellent services our residents depend on. If elected to council, I'll be the hardest working member, and I'll reach out to our community like no other. Please go to abetterburbank.com to see how we can collectively make Burbank better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Noss, your opening statement, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Noss. I'm a candidate for the Burbank City Council. I would also like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum. I have been involved in this community for over 50 years. I've also served you before as an elected official as a member of the Board of Education. I've been walking door to door, and I've heard what our neighbors have had to say, and they have told me what they want. They want their streets repaired. I will work to do that. They want to mitigate the traffic in their neighborhoods. I will do that. They want the police and fire to remain strong in our community to keep them safe, and I will do that. They also want us to work with the current zoning laws so that we can control mansionization in our neighborhoods, and we will do that as well as also work with staff to bring in new business. I have the experience. I've lived in Burbank since 1956 and raised my family here as well. Please vote for me, David Noss, on ballot position number 7. I want to be your advocate and your voice in the City Council. I want to do what's right for you and be fair. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now begin the question period. The first question is addressed to all of the candidates. Burbank, like its neighboring communities, will be facing increasing population pressures during the next 2 to 5 years, and thus needs to seriously assess its existing plans for business development and infrastructure requirements. For instance, 3 recent multi-use projects brought to the City Council for approval, required material variances from Burbank's existing planning standards, and it is almost certain that there will be more such projects. What do you think should be the priorities of the City Council in developing realistic and appropriate plans for the challenges ahead, including how to address requests for variances? Ms. Gable-Luddy, your 2-minute response, please.
Thank you. The idea of population pressure and the need to seriously assess our business development are two very important questions. And it really is, I'm going to start by saying, a very hard balancing act. We want to see jobs development in our community because it is those very jobs that help us fully fund our community services. But at the same time, we also want to protect our neighborhoods from cut-through traffic and other kinds of issues. I'm going to start by answering that question you asked about the multi-use projects and talk about one that I voted for recently. You know, I approved and supported the Talaria project, and one of the reasons I did that in this balancing act was to look that the approval on the books was worse than the proposal before us at Council. It was a sensitive issue whether you were pro or con to this project. The land will not stay vacant, and there has been development discussed on that property for at least 10 years. The new project was smaller by almost 100,000 square feet, lower by several stories. It had significantly more parking, almost 100 spaces more than the zoning code requires. And it's LEED certified. So at the end of the day, it's going to address environmental mitigations as well. Just last week, the council unanimously approved testing the street closures for the single-family neighborhoods north of the project site, which I think is a good indication of the direction that this council is going in. We will have the resources for the next 2 to 5 years. We have looked at this in a short and long-range plan for the city. However, traffic is clearly a concern, and I will continue to fight to reduce congestion, cut through traffic, and speeding. Water is a key concern, and I will continue to speak up on water conservation, water storage, water treatment, and reclamation. On the plan development question and the variances, we have a procedure that allows projects to come through plan development. And this project did come through that process. Many of the projects we have in Burbank today are Senior Artist Colony, the Roy and Patricia Disney Cancer Center, and the Media Studios North all came through the plan development process. Our future is good.
Thank you. Mr. Guillen, your 2-minute response, please.
When looking at development in our community, we should always remember we are Burbank. All our projects should have adequate parking, traffic studies that are realistic and meaningful. When the professionals say something is going on in the community and the residents say the complete opposite, it raises concerns. Exceptional projects should have exceptional community outreach. Exceptional projects should bring benefit to our community and not just added profits to the developers. Exceptional projects should include some kind of affordable components of the housing components. Overly dense projects have great demands on our resources. Infrastructure requires long-term investment and continuous commitment to the long-term planning. We should not approve projects that do not comply with our long-range planning, nor use terms like exceptional project when they're poorly defined. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Springer, your 2-minute response, please.
First of all, I think we need to have an open discussion on our Southern California Association of Governments Regional Housing Needs Assessment for Burbank. The housing element of Burbank 2035 indicates we'll need about 2,700 units by 2021, and 58% of those are low to moderate income units. A question I've been asked is what happens if we don't provide the Regional Housing Needs Assessment? I've been told by the city that we lose state and federal funding. How much? What would it look like and how would it be if we provided less housing? How would it affect housing costs, our economy? As far as I can tell, there are no proposed affordable units in the Burbank pipeline. When affordable housing is raised, nobody asks the developer to replace them. I don't see us meeting this goal when 58% of the housing is projected to be low and moderate income. Maybe if we did this, more teachers could live here. High housing costs have a significant impact on business location decisions. This should be considered as an integral part of our business and economic development plans. Businesses will simply choose to locate out of state. When a business comes in, IKEA for example, many small businesses were displaced. I addressed City Council 4 times during that process, and there were small businesses begging for financial relocation assistance. How is this request out of line when IKEA has had over 20 years of free land writ? I know we need the sales tax dollars, but it seems IKEA was given all the concessions and discretion. Did these small businesses get any help? As a former business owner, I know the importance of customer retention. These really are the city's customers. It was probably worth it to give them a moving concession to relocate in Burbank. My friend and neighbor, Nancy of Valley Grinding, was located on Providencia for over 61 years. Her father started the business when she was a child. She's 77, and the sheriff showed up because apparently she wasn't moving fast enough. She moved her business to North Hollywood and her employees. That's just dumb and it's unproductive. There's so much distrust now among our community that I think we shouldn't allow any variances.
Mr. Rogers, your 2-minute response, please.
I'm not opposed to all variances and waivers, but I and many others are fed up with there being no corresponding flexibility for the residents who have to live with the aftermath. 20 more apartments than allowed, there's a waiver. Short of parking spaces, there's a variance. But let a resident ask, why does a traffic study have only 1 sampling day? And the answer is, that's all the law requires. Why did notices go out to 500 feet from the project when this neighborhood is just outside that line and it will be impacted? The answer is because that's all that the law required. For us, the minimums of the law must suffice, but heaven and earth and whatever the law says is the maximum height for a sign can all be moved if that's what the developer or a builder wants. There is a naked lack of balance to the system. In Burbank, the person who enforces and interprets development rules is the same person who leads economic development. Now, I like and respect that person, but that's a ludicrous conflict of interest. That's how we get word of a new project coming to the city and someone says, that'll be great for Burbank, and weeks later, that same person is submitting the independent analysis of the project to the City Council. The priority has to be reintroducing balance and common sense into the process, and a great start would be rebuilding from the ground up our rules for traffic studies. The people of Burbank deserve better than the very minimum that the law requires. Why did the neighbors of the Teleria project have to come up here? Why weren't the staff, the planning board, and the city council looking after their interests months before that hearing took place? Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Stearns-Neeson, your 2-minute response, please.
Thank you. First, I believe we need a protocol that extends a broader disclosure of all new development and mansionization projects to everyone in Burbank. People often feel that they are left out of the process, and by the time the project is approved, they think it's too late for them to have a say. I'd like to work toward changing that. Second, I believe all standards, such as what constitutes an exceptional project, should be clearly defined so that everyone knows what the guidelines are before they ask for a variance. I support the city's direction in doing just that with the exceptional project issue. I think variances should be approved or disapproved based on clearly defined standards which have been vetted by our community members. Variances are there for a purpose, to make a project work and to go forward. I understand that. However, we just can't have the process abused. Before issuing a variance, serious consideration must be given in regards to water usage, density, and traffic. Third, I think everyone should have a say in any project that's being proposed here in Burbank. The voice of our citizens is most important to me, especially when it comes to protecting our neighborhoods from adverse effects such as traffic congestion, density, parking, noise, and especially right now, water usage for such projects. I know I sound like a broken record. However, these are the concerns I'm hearing in the community, and I think they're worth repeating. I have these same worries, and I'm telling you right now that my door will always be open to listening to these concerns and any other issues regarding any proposed project. That's why I'm asking for your consideration and your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Rosati, your 2-minute response, please.
Thank you. Let's get technical here. Burbank 2035 Land Use Policy 1.4 allows for density limits to be exceeded up to 25% for exceptional projects that advance the goals and policies of Burbank 2035. As Vice Chair of the Planning Board, our board was charged with creating a matrix and outlining the criteria for what is considered exceptional. This was back in February of 2014. If elected to council, one of the first things I would do is ask that our council review this matrix, get the input of the public, and move to adopt the standard. Land Use Policy 1.4 is meant to benefit the city and its residents if a developer hits certain marks. In turn, the developer could get up to 25% higher FAR, floor area ratio, if certain guidelines are met. I believe this matrix will give applicants the roadmap to what is expected of our city. We should welcome the input of developers that may have new and better approaches as times change and our guidelines become stale. Here are a few of the criteria examples. Projects that are sustainable and LEED certified. Projects that promote healthy lifestyles, such as the Jocelyn Center. Projects that have affordable housing components. Projects that provide open space. Projects that provide urban design and architecture. And projects that advance the goals of 2035. I believe the Planning Board did an excellent job in addressing these issues of growth when it comes to projects that are considered exceptional. I do believe this is a realistic and appropriate plan for our city for the changes ahead, and I will work with the elected and our public to review and adopt this criteria. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Noss, your 2-minute response, please.
Yes, and thank you. Burbank is going to undergo a great deal of change in the next number of years. We have a lot of development that will probably come before us. We have 58 acres that are going to be developed up at the airport facility. Exceptional projects maybe have a matrix available right now, but I have not seen them clearly defined in our community. In order for projects to proceed, just because they can go to 25% over doesn't mean they need to be approved at that level. Variances are something to be considered, but I think we need more definitions in our current ordinances that will bring us more in compliance with what our neighborhoods want and what we can do within the city. The biggest issue that I see is that everybody seems to operate at a knee-jerk reaction. I think we need to get together, discuss the ordinances, close the loopholes that allow the variances to take place currently, and redefine them to a point to where they're going to make sense for the community, they're going to make sense for the neighborhood. This will impact the number of units that will be able to be built. This will impact the type of traffic. We need to look at the traffic studies more carefully, as has been said before, and I absolutely agree with that. These type of things can only be done when we work together within the guidelines of the rules we have. We have to protect the people in this community. We have to protect the neighborhoods, and the way we do that is work with what we've got, work to make sure that we've cinched up the loopholes that are in there, and that includes the things that are not even mentioned about exceptional projects, and make sure everything works together for the community. We need more communication so that people will understand what we're saying. We need more communication so that we've got ample input from our community members. And it doesn't take much to bring them out and then come and hear us, what we have to say. We need to hear what they have to say. That's the only way we're going to make clean decisions and the only way we're going to be fair for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is directed to Mr. Gann. What do you see as the most serious long-term challenges in the city's budget? Specifically, include in your response the issue of significant, currently unfunded obligations building up to face us in the future. Mr. Gann, your 2-minute response, please.
We are now faced with all these unfunded issues. Past councils have waited for future generations to figure out how we were going to pay it. When we had the money, we spent instead of being wise and effective in how we spent the money. We must stop tax dollar giveaways, windfalls for developers. We must not sell properties for underappraised values. We must be effective and efficient when we spend the taxpayers' dollars. We can no longer spend it like It's not our money. We must always remember that the money, with the decisions we make, using the money of the taxpayers, is their hard-earned tax dollar. And the residents and their money should be at the forefront of what is best for our community. Status quo is not okay, and we must be fiscally responsible and be effective and efficient when we spend the taxpayers' dollars.
Thank you. The next question is directed to Ms. Springer. Our current central library opened in 1963 and currently is very inadequate for its present needs and usage. How would you address enabling the building of a new facility for the central library location? Your 2-minute response, please.
Well, I would put it out for competitive bids, and I like that library. I think it's very conveniently located, and maybe to use the site more wisely, maybe to go higher than 2 stories, and maybe across the street there could be some excess parking. I know sometimes the parking at that library is overflowing, and on both lots, the one on Orange Grove and the one on Olive. So I would put it out to competitive bids and get some creative design alternatives and pick one and go with it.
Thank you. The next question is directed to Mr. Rogers. Throughout Southern California, there's been a great interest in developing alternative forms of transportation so as to reduce the use of personal cars. What are your ideas about how the city should be addressing its transportation infrastructure, including forms of transportation and parking considerations? Your 2-minute response, please.
Well, it's unfortunate that the bike paths in Burbank have become, at least among a certain contingent of the city, this subject of ridicule, because if you pay attention, more and more people are using them all the time. There are, in fact, a number of people who are taking advantage of the possibility of commuting from work to home. And as we link up with other cities, Los Angeles and, I'm sorry, I have a neighbor who actually rides his bike every day from Glendale to his home on my street. It's becoming more and more popular, so I think we have to go back to our master plan, which is sitting around somewhere rolled up in City Hall, for our overall bike plan, open it up again and get back to installing that plan rather than putting up with the ridicule that's coming from a very small contingent. Parking. From the very beginning, Burbankers have insisted on having free parking, and then of course there's a complaint when we end up giving a developer the land to build a parking ramp in order to provide that parking for free. I would suggest that perhaps we could start building smaller ramps, not only saving ourselves money in the assistance we're giving to developers, but making it more inconvenient to park downtown so that it is more convenient to take rapid transit. We can't do that, of course, until the city goes back to supporting the transportation programs that it has been cutting first every time there needs to be a cutback. Transportation for kids, transportation for seniors has been among the first items to cut when dollars were needed. So I think we need to restore these programs and get people reliable, speedy mass transit. I'm sorry, I can't tell if he's holding it up or not. No. Oh, I thought he was waving at me. All right. Period.
Thank you. Thank you. The next question will be directed to Ms. Stearns-Neeson. Many voters are asking, where do you live, and what neighborhood would you represent if elected?
Well, I live at Naomi and Verdugo, and even though I would wish to represent my neighbors in my neighborhood, I really want to represent everybody in Burbank. I believe that the heart and soul of Burbank lives in our neighborhoods. And thus, I would want to be the voice of everyone in Burbank. I think it's important that we get the word out for any project that's going to be built, whether it's in my neighborhood or a project being proposed in the hillside or a project that's being proposed at the airport, to get everybody's input, to represent all of Burbank, everyone in Burbank. I think that, as I will mention later in my closing statement, that I want to represent equally and fairly every neighborhood and every person in Burbank. So as much as I would like to say that I will represent only my close friends in my neighborhood, I can't say that. I wish to represent everybody in Burbank. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is directed to Mr. Rosati. Our community, like our entire state, is facing the potentially serious consequences of the drought. How do you assess what the city of Burbank has been doing, both on its own and to assist its residents, to address the use of water in our community? What additional steps should be explored? Mr. Rosati, your 2-minute response, please.
Thank you for that question. I think our city's been very aggressive. We have changed our water requirement, watering days several times. We're down to 1 day during cooler months, which I agree with. At my own house, I certainly can see that we don't need as much water as we normally would during the hotter months. You know, the writing is on the wall. We are consuming our Earth's resources, so we have to come up with alternatives. And our city has offered many programs for drought-tolerant types of landscaping, which I think is excellent. I think we need to look to recycled water programs. Most of our parks are already recycled water, except for, I believe, Brace Park, which is kind of a dam system. But I think we need to explore that in all of our schools and certainly our business campuses around town. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. The next question will be directed to Mr. Noss. What will you do to control water and power rates? Mr. Noss, your 2-minute response, please.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. That's a very emotional issue for the people in Burbank. They don't want their rates to go up. And it's a double-edged sword for us because we have mandates that come down from the state that require us to move more and more to reusable energy. Reusable energy is infinitely more expensive than the current methods of oil and natural gas. And Burbank's been very proactive in building its resources. We use compressed natural gas almost 100% for our power generation for the plants that are here in town. But we do buy out power, and it is more expensive. Every year those index rates go up. So how do we keep the utility users' rates down so they don't keep going up? Well, that's going to have to be done by finding the different types of maybe green businesses that we can bring into town, increase our tax bases to the point where the utility users don't get charged the amount of tax that we need to raise the rates by. It's an ongoing problem that we're going to have throughout the state, and I don't believe our hands are tied. I think if we work together and put our legislators on notice that we don't need this down here, just slow it down a little bit so we can wait for the technology to catch up to the actual rates, the power that we're using, we can keep the rates a little bit lower. But first of all, we have to generate more revenue in the city, build our tax base so that we can keep the rates down for our residents, because every year the index powers go up and we need to look at power rates going up. But we can do that by generating money and generating a better tax base, business retention, and keeping the rates down for our neighbors. That's the only way we're going to be able to do it right now. Also working with the legislators to help defer some of that time and effort and money that goes out to buy power that is more expensive. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be directed to Ms. Gable Luddy. If you were to be elected to the City Council, which of the other candidates would you like to join the board with you? Please explain your choice.
Wow. Well, I want them all on board. I think expanding the council to 7 would be a great idea. Look, I come from a point of view that says decision-making needs to be practical, needs to represent studying all the issues very hard, needs to consider all the opinions that come forward in public testimony and understands that the job at the dais is not an easy one. And in this particular election, I have supported Mr. Rosati, who's serving as vice chair of the planning board. And he has been my person that I have supported. However, I will tell you something about this relationship. He and I don't belong to the same political party, which I think that goes to show our Burbank community that the garbage gets picked up whether you're Republican or Democrat. I'm interested in clear-headed, practical statements from which we can have conversations at the dais over complicated issues and maintain a level of civility and cooperation to either arrive at a compromise or a respectful disagreement, but nonetheless work for the best of our community. And so that would be my answer to your question. Thank you for that great question.
Thank you. At this time, there's an open round where each candidate can take up to 2 minutes to address any of the forum questions not previously addressed to him or her. Ms. Springer, your 2-minute response, please.
I would like to say that if elected, I will represent the entire community of Burbank. I think it's wrong to pit neighborhood against neighborhood, and so I won't do that. I will represent everybody and be fair to everybody. Everybody matters. And I would also like to comment on the water and the drought. Prop 1 funds passed in November, and so that has, I think, like $700 or $800 million component for expansion of recycled water. And also something that we really haven't explored too much in Burbank is the use of gray water. That's water from a washing machine. And one doesn't need a permit to do that, and we need to educate our community on how to do that so that that water can irrigate our lawns and garden, and that would save a lot of water, and that's what I would do. I would just push those and hold everybody's hand so we can get that on board and working. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers, your 2-minute response, please.
Boy, there are several points I want to get to. I'm afraid I have to disagree with Ms. Gable-Levy. I don't think that was a good question at all, and it's unfortunate that the person selecting the questions wasn't familiar with the endorsements that had taken place and that a question went in that direction because the others have been so terrific. And in fact, my answer with regard to mass transit and transportation interests, I would love to take all of those words back and put them into just one comprehensible sentence. But it reminds me that I didn't even make reference to the high-speed rail system, which is going to be we're going to have a station, in theory, right here in Burbank. And I say in theory only because the last thing that the city of Burbank has told us about it was information we were given first in 2011, and then December 8th, just a few weeks ago, we got an update as to what the scope of the EIR will be. At this point, all we know is that there is supposed to be a station in Burbank, somewhere over near Buena Vista and San Fernando, very roughly, and that it will be entered either from above ground or below ground or from tracks way above ground. We don't know where it's going to go after that or where exactly it's going to come from. And I think it would be very good if the City Council and the people of Burbank knew a lot more about that. I want to also disagree with one candidate who said that the exception in development is poorly defined. It's not at all defined. And since 1992 or 93, I've watched candidates, including incumbents, call for defining what an exceptional project is. And still somehow when they get into office, it seems to get forgotten. This time, certainly if I'm elected, it won't be forgotten. And that's all I have to follow up on.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Stearns-Neeson, your 2-minute response, please.
Thank you. Well, I think it was an interesting question that Ms. Gable-Luddy got, and I can truly say that I believe I would bring respect and decorum to the dais. So with regards to anybody that got elected or the city council members that are already on the dais, I think I would work well with. I think that's one of my strengths. As far as the budget is concerned and building our budget, I know that our unfunded pension liability issues have been being worked on, and I appreciate the current council's leadership in that. I know that most of the labor unions have started paying or are negotiating for their contracts to start paying into their pensions, thus creating a decrease in our unfunded pension liability. I also believe that the City Council had one-time monies, also lump sums put into that as well, and I think that's an important priority on behalf of the Council to be working toward paying down our unfunded liability pensions. As far as the budget as well, I think building businesses and bringing good businesses to Burbank is a way to increase our revenue streams. When we increase our revenue streams, we can then hold on to and maintain some of the amenities that we like. Me particularly, I want to see more police officers on the streets. We have 8 less budgeted police officer positions than we did 10 years ago. I think that's a shame, and I'd like to see that change. There's so much more to say, but I've only got a couple of seconds, so these are just a few of my responses. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rosati, your 2-minute response, please.
Thank you. The exceptional project criteria was voted on by the Planning Board. As Vice Chair of the Planning Board, I can tell you that criteria is in the hands of our council and will be voted on by our council, but the criteria has been met. Regarding, I love the question about where do you live and who would you represent? I've lived in every residential zip code in Burbank, 91501, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, by the airport, in the apartment district on 7th Street off of Glen Oaks. I lived in Magnolia Park. I live in the Rancho now. I could represent all aspects of our city. I've experienced every single one of them. I know the impacts from apartment buildings to neighboring businesses and commercial. I feel like I can represent the entire city. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Mr. Noss, your 2-minute response, please.
Yes, thank you. A couple things. I'd like to address transportation for a moment. Burbank has a unique opportunity coming up because we're going to be gridlocked very quickly as soon as the overpass at Burbank Boulevard shuts down, and people are going to try desperately to find a way around town. The way we can work this out, and again, this is a unique opportunity because it's going to take a generation for us to get people out of their cars. Everybody in California has a love affair with their car, and we have to re-educate ourselves because we're just getting to the point where we need to start finding other ways of transportation. I think if Burbank puts its thinking cap on and we all work together, we can come up with some type of intra-city bus line that can move people around from one portion of the city to the other. We may even be able to get a grant for maybe a solar-powered vehicle that might be available where we could start moving people around. And I'm not talking huge buses, I'm talking small ones. And if we get this in place and it's working properly, I believe the people in this community will have found at least a way that they can get around town without using their car. But this is unique for us, and I think it's a good time for us to start thinking about this. As far as metered water and recycled water, the recycled water would be really great. Talking to some people at their homes this weekend, they told me that they think that possibly maybe the city should offer incentives to go in using recycled water. And there are a few areas in town that would make it easy for it to come up to the neighborhoods, and that would be like the Chandler Bike Path. It's already being done with recycled water. Bringing it up to those neighborhoods would probably be easier, and I think that we ought to consider looking at that and give incentives to people to water their lawns that way. That'll save water.
Thank you. Ms. Gable-Luddy, your 2-minute response, please.
Thank you. You're right. Labor has stepped up, and they are now being part of the solution in our budget by paying their part of their pension requirements. The second thing I'd like to say is on the water rates, there's a great opportunity for the BWP this year to take the money that they will no longer be transferring to the city and apply it to reducing the water rates in future years. So they have a windfall because we, the city, settled over the water transfer, that money will no longer be transferred to the general fund, so there's a terrific opportunity to evaluate that funding with respect to decreasing the increase of the water rates. That's not to say water rates will go down. I'm just saying that it's still a tough choice, but there's a way of delivering that. You know, I look forward to seeing the exceptional criteria come to the City Council. I think that the general plan said in the policy 1.4, it discussed it, it said here's where you can find those policies, but it's clear from my experience and the experience on council that we need to have greater clarity about what that means. So I look forward to the council having a discussion and a debate over that and taking the good work and the recommendations of the planning board and talking about that to iron it down. On affordable housing, we will continue to get repaid by the state the $50 million that we loaned our redevelopment agency. And as a result of dissolution of redevelopment, over a long period of time, more than 10 years, we're going to get paid back that money. That means that as council members, we should focus on strategically how we can put that one-time money to work. Can it be used to write down the infrastructure deficits that we have? Can it be used to expand our residential paving program? Can it be used to capitalize a renovation of the Central Library? Can we replace the pool at McCambridge Park? Any number of things that we can look at for one-time funding.
Thank you. Mr. Guillen, your 2-minute response, please.
I think it's time to go back to basics. Let's be logical and rational and effective when we do things. The problems will change in our community, but logical thinking and common sense will carry us to the future and set us up for success. Addressing the bike path, as a cyclist, I don't feel any safer on the quarter-mile bike path that has only created more congestion and is inefficient and ineffective as far as the spending of our money and the fact that the bike path leads nowhere. That is not the best way to use our money. As far as what neighborhood I would represent, I'm here to represent the community in the whole city, not any one neighborhood. And countless times I have stepped up, just where you are, Madam Moderator, and I've spoken up for the community, from the Hill to the Flatlands to Magnolia Park when they were having issues. I've spoken up, not when it was politically convenient, but because it was the right thing to do. It's never the wrong time to do the right thing. As far as the high-speed rail, should the high-speed rail come to the city of Burbank, we must work together with the state and the high-speed rail authority to ensure that we receive the maximum benefit with the minimum impact on our residents. Going back to logic and common sense on the water rates, we approved the budget costing the residents $200,000 of additional litigation costs because of the illegal water fund transfers. We must keep our rates as low as possible. They should accurately represent the actual cost of providing the service and no hidden charges for other things. Thank you.
Thank you. The candidates will now have 2 minutes each for their closing statements. Ms. Gable Luddy, your closing statement, please.
I'm proud to be a member of your city council for the last 3.5 years. And I think the questions that were asked tonight point to the challenges that we have going forward. A lot of good questions were asked about how we move our city forward in a sustainable way, both financially, for living and working here, and of course visiting and playing here. Among those challenges I see are local issues, the high-speed rail, our airport, which was not even raised as a question tonight, but I think it's a very important issue to discuss, the level of development and the appropriate balance, even fighting our own state of California, which we find ourselves doing from time to time as members of council, and reconciling the kind of litigation that we've had to face. For example, the loss of our ability to impose a requirement for affordable housing through the density bonus program because of litigation from some other place. I'd like to cure that here in Burbank. It takes a lot of hard work. I've said yes on some projects, but I've also said no on other projects on a citywide basis throughout our community. and I've always given you reasons why I've taken the positions I have taken. What I want to do is put to work the experience of the last 3.5 years, including 1 year serving as your mayor. You know where to find me, and you know how to contact me. I'm asking for your vote for re-election to City Council. Thank you, and good night.
Thank you. Mr. Guillen, your closing statement, please.
Someone told me I should speak from the heart, and I'd never go wrong. So here I go. I love our community, and I love Burbank. As a Marine veteran, I do not take what we have or the commitment to protect it lightly. We must work together to preserve what makes Burbank unique and create an even better future for tomorrow. I want to reach out to the residents, communicate better with the residents, and encourage resident involvement in every decision we make, because the greatest asset in Burbank is you, the resident. I believe that you, the resident, should be at the forefront of every decision we make. I understand the importance of being fiscally responsible. I believe we must be effective and efficient with your tax money. We must never forget that decisions we make are paid for by your hard-earned tax dollars. We can no longer pass the buck for future generations to deal with the issues. As a Burbank resident, we have much to be proud of. However, now is the time to start addressing the issues of our deteriorating infrastructure, overdevelopment that threatens the quality of life of our neighborhoods, with traffic and congestion. At 35, I will bring youthful energy to your city council. I will work to bring our community together, moving forward into the future. As a Marine veteran, commitment is something I take very seriously. I believe that I can bring back the servant to public servant. I promise to be your voice on the city council that never turns a deaf ear to your concerns. I believe in Burbank, and I believe in preserving our quality of life. I'm Juan Guillen, number 2 on the ballot, and I humbly request your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Springer, your 2-minute response, please. Closing statement, excuse me.
As a city council member, my focus will be maintaining our quality of life and small-town charm, providing excellent city services, staying fiscally sound, and moving public and private development and infrastructure projects forward responsibly within the context of limited natural and other resources. New construction should be consistent with the general plan and within the context of our surrounding neighborhoods, population trends, and long-term goals of our city. Density bonuses and extraordinary concessions to developers, if any, should be matched by conservation measures and/or financial contributions to fund quality of life enhancements to our broader community. We should assist and do our best to retain displaced businesses and residents. I will foster inclusiveness, increase public engagement, collaboration, creativity, and be a consensus builder. I will focus on economic development. We must enhance our workers' ability to participate in the recovery and earn a living. We must support a diverse economy and provide opportunities for training and reinvention. I respect and support small business. As a former business owner, I know the challenges, needs, and rewards of being in business. In all of this, I will be environmentally responsible and will creatively address water, energy, air quality, and waste issues. My education, land use experience, small business experience, and personality make me eminently qualified for the job. Thank you very much for your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers, your closing statement, please.
I have priorities and plans. I would like to see our streetlights truly and actually synchronized to help reduce congestion throughout the city. I'd like to see the development process revamped so that we can continue with building in progress, but do it in a balanced and fair way that we haven't seen lately. I want to see an end to the pendulum that swings every few years. Anti-development to pro-development to anti-development. I want to see it in the middle. My dream really is to see a developer go to some neighbors with their plan, and one day those neighbors and the developer go to the council and say, we like it. Now, there will always be someone who doesn't like it. Mike Nolan, probably. But I think it is possible, and I would like to help us get there. being a columnist is not the same as being a council member. I would have to find agreement with at least 2 other people to go my direction. But really, there is no council member out there who is against giving the public more information. None of them has taken a position against telling you what's going on. It's just what seems to keep happening. If this city had been advertising the proposal for the opportunity site, 50-some acres out by the airport, and the development that is planned for there, the way it is advertised, the skating rink behind City Hall, I would not have gone to in excess of about 16,000 houses now and found one person who knew what the so-called opportunity site is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Stearns-Neeson, your closing statement, please.
Thank you. As I mentioned in my opening statement, I value public safety. As a current member of the Burbank Police Commission, I know how important it is to protect our citizens, our property values, and our businesses. That's one of my top priorities. In order to protect those services and the many other amenities that Burbank enjoys, I want to bring in revenue streams by promoting Burbank as a destination to bring vibrant, high-paying businesses of all kinds. I don't want to see our jobs go elsewhere. I want to work with Burbank Water and Power to increase our sources of water in the future. I'm supportive of our conservation efforts, but I believe we need to keep discussing and working toward more solutions. This may include discussions on new sources of supply such as desalination, more storage, any other sources our experts can find. We need to keep this discussion alive. I want to protect our neighborhoods from encroachment, traffic congestion, and noise. I will not look favorably on any project that forces traffic into the neighborhoods off of main streets. Examples would be a poorly placed bike lane, improperly timed signals, or lack of left-hand turning arrows. Folks, I don't want cars roaring down our streets because the main arteries are too congested. I will have an open door policy in which I hope everyone will feel comfortable discussing any issue or concern they have in the city. I can't promise that I will vote the way you would like every time. However, I can promise that I will listen to any concern, to each and every issue, and be informed and make an informed decision based on community input. I don't have a personal agenda. I just want to represent all neighborhoods fairly and equally. I am Elise Stearns-Neeson, and I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rosati, your closing statement, please.
Thank you. I got started with the selection process in March of 2014. I've met some really great people, and I'm having the time of my life. I think we're all here for the same reason. Which one of us is going to work the hardest? We can all say what we're going to do, but I suggest you rely on track record. I have the track record of success and service. Public service is about serving the public. It's about sacrificing and doing the hard work. I vow to reestablish relationships with our labor unions and our key business partners in town. People do business with people they know and trust. It's about relationships. The first time we meet should never be at a negotiating table to discuss a labor contract or such as NBC did when they left town. We should have an ongoing relationship. My priorities will be what Burbank's always been about. Excellent police and fire services, city services, and schools. I'll focus on what gets us there: our budget, smart land use, and a good business retention program. As vice chair of the planning board, I've been the lone dissenting vote several times on projects that were underparked or impact our residential neighborhoods. I will protect our city. If elected, I plan to be resourceful and innovative. We hear all the time at our council meetings that not enough access or outreach is being done, but no one ever offers a solution. Here's my solution. If elected my first year, I vow to meet with members of the public at a standing time and a standing location each and every week. This has never been done. Again, it's about the hard work and engaging our community. I need your vote. Please vote Rosati in this election. Pick 6 on your ballot. Please go to abetterburbank.com to see how we can make Burbank collectively better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Noss, your closing statement, please.
Thank you. And once again, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for bringing this opportunity to all of us tonight. It's a very hard and learning experience for us, and a humbling one as well, I might add. Ladies and gentlemen, members of Burbank voting public, all our residents in this community, this is all about you. This is about what your needs are. And this is about us taking those needs and bringing them before the council and as a council person and fulfilling those needs and making them happen. You need traffic worked at. You need more revenue in the city. You need the streets fixed. You need many things. And as a city council person, we need input from you so that we can make our decisions about what is necessary to be done. We have the ultimate control over the budget, but we need input from the community so that we know how, if we're doing anything incorrectly, and how we to do more so we can be better at what we do. You know, it's difficult. We need managed and controlled growth. We need understanding of the ordinances that we have to keep development at bay and to make it work within our community. We need to work together as a team. This happens through communication. This happens through accessibility. And I propose to have that for you at all times. Nothing gets done unless we do it together. As a team, we can make anything happen. This is about the community. This is about the city of Burbank. This is about what makes us different than any other city in Southern California or in the country for that matter. My name's David Noss, ballot position number 7. I want to be your voice. I want to be your advocate, and I want to represent you on the Burbank City Council. Please vote. Ballot position number 7, Dave Noss. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes the City Council portion of the Candidates Forum. If you'd like to talk to the candidates personally about issues that concern you, join us at the candidate meet and greets being held around Burbank. The first of these will be Monday, January 26th at Bellarmine Jefferson High School. The next will be Monday, February 9th at the Burbank High School Library. Then another on Wednesday, February 11th at Westminster Presbyterian Church, and then Wednesday, February 18th at Burroughs High School Library. For more information, call the city clerk's office or visit the city website or the League's website. And we have flyers here tonight. We will now take a short intermission and resume with our candidates forum for the Burbank Board of Education. Thank you. Welcome back to the second part of the League of Women Voters Candidate Forum. We will now question the candidates for the Burbank Board of Education. The audience here tonight is invited to submit written questions for the candidates. Please raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question, and one of the monitors will provide you with a card and pencil. Questions will be collected only during the opening statements and the first question. We'd like to request that the audience turn off all cell phones and pagers, and that they refrain from applauding or otherwise disrupting the forum. If a candidate's supporters are disruptive during another candidate's remarks, the other candidate will be given additional time to compensate for the interruption. Attacks of a personal nature, including private matters, having no bearing on a candidate's public persona or ability to perform the duties of the office in a competent, ethical manner, will not be tolerated. If a candidate makes a personal attack during his remarks, the time required for me to interrupt the candidate and remind him or her of the rule will be taken from his or her own speaking time. I'd like to begin by introducing the candidates for the Burbank Board of Education. They are, in ballot order, Stephen L. Ferguson, Dr. Armand Agakanian, Board Member Roberta Grande Reynolds, Jesse Tankapanya, Gregory Sousa, and Vahe Hovanesian. Each candidate will be allowed 1 minute for an opening statement. There will then be a total of 7 questions. The initial question will be addressed to all the candidates at the forum, beginning with candidate number 1. Although this is not our standard process, in light of the importance of this question and to ensure that all the candidates have sufficient time to consider their response, we have provided the question to all the candidates in advance. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to respond to it. Following this initial question, there'll be 6 more questions, each question addressed to a separate candidate, beginning with candidate number 2 and ending back with candidate number 1. None of these questions have been provided to any of the candidates prior to the forum. For each question, the particular candidate will be allowed up to 2 minutes to respond to his or her question. Following those questions, there will be an open round where each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to address any of the forum questions not previously addressed to him or her. Following the question period, the candidates will be given 2 minutes each for a closing statement. During these responses, our timekeepers will alert candidates to the time remaining with signs of 1 minute, 30 seconds, and then a stop sign when they're out of time. We will now begin with opening statements. Mr. Ferguson, your opening statement, please.
Thank you, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum tonight, and thank you, of course, to the residents of Burbank. I am a proud candidate and a proud product of this community. I went through Burbank schools, and I'm so grateful to the institution that gave me so much, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to give back. Education remains complicated, but it's not hopeless. And I am so excited to be running because we are all here today to talk about the future and to talk about what we can do and not about what we can't. If elected, I'm truly focused on revitalizing vocational education, innovating in education once again, and providing additional oversight that's publicly accessible on budgetary dollars. I look forward to the conversation ahead as we talk about some of the most critical issues facing our district, and I hope throughout this time you'll consider supporting me. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Agakanian.
Thank you.
Your opening statement, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Armando Agakanian. I'm a longtime Burbank resident, parent, and a teacher. Currently, I serve as a member of Burbank Facilities Oversight Committee, overseeing $110 million of bond money that you, the voters, passed. I'm also a member of Burbank's Parks and Recreation and Community Services Board and a member of our own Burbank Noon Kiwanis. I'm running for Burbank School Board to guarantee that all of our students and all children have access to the best public education leading to career success. Together, we must prepare our students for inter-level careers, college, university, and workforce training programs, while providing the best education from our schools, small class sizes for individual learning, and the most professional staff and teachers at all of our schools. Furthermore, as a school board member, I will work to implement safe schools from all of our children, technological advancement on all of our class sizes, and a transparent budgetary process. I have 1 minute. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Reynolds, your opening statement, please.
Hi, my name is Roberta Reynolds, and I'm a lifetime resident of Burbank. I have owned 2 homes here. I've raised my daughters in the Burbank schools, and I'm a product of the Burbank schools. And I'm deeply, deeply committed to Burbank. Over the time prior to being elected to the Board of Education, I served in many leadership positions in parent volunteer organizations and community school groups. Over the time that I've served in the Board of Education, 7.5 years, we've come through the most difficult fiscal times in many decades. And while coming through those times, we've really maintained so many of our programs, and that was through leadership and community partnerships. I hope that the community will trust me to continue to provide that leadership as we face the new challenges that are coming ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tankapanya, your opening statement, please.
Hi, I'm Jesse Tankapanya. Some of you I have not had the pleasure of introducing myself to, so I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My family, we come from a family of immigrants. When my family moved here, they literally had nothing and no one. We had to get most of our food, most of our clothing from local community action centers and churches. It's a big part of who I am because it was an early lesson in life and a first lesson. It taught me that everything that we had was due to the sacrifices of other people. It's a big part of why I'm running. I'm running to give back to the community and the country that gave my family a shot at the American dream. I'm also running because I have a lot of experience in the education and healthcare sector. I've visited over 100 school sites at my position as an organizer at SEIU Local 99. And I also have directly negotiated with school districts in $100 million budgets. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Souza, your opening statement, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Greg Souza. I'm a parent of a 10-year-old who is currently a 5th grader here in Burbank. I've spent the last several years as a law student, and now I'm a graduate student earning a degree in tax law. I've noticed that a lot of the emphasis has been on preparing our students for a career in college, and that's rightly so, but there's more to it than that. Our schools are more than just training grounds. They're where our children are socialized and acculturated. Our kids' first contact with others outside the home is often through the schools, and that's why our schools, which are really the cornerstone of our American society, need to be accessible to all and without regard for economics or favor. And so that's why I'm running, is to assure that accessibility, which seems to sometimes get lost in the administrative maneuvering. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hovhanessian, your opening statement, please.
Thank you. My name is Vahe Hovhanessian. I'm a parent of 2 kids, including a 1st grader attending our schools. I have a daughter who's almost 4 years old in a day or two, and she was going to be attending schools. I know that the stakes are high when it comes to the future of our children. I have the passion, education, experience, leadership, and dedication needed to ensure that our schools remain strong. I am a lifelong Burbank resident, a practicing attorney, and an involved parent. I am a member of the PTA as well as part of the Boosters. My experience and service over the past 5 years as a member and chair of the district's Bond Oversight Committee, over the past 12 years of full-term service of the Planning Board and the Burbank Water and Power Board. I'm almost a decade-long Rotarian and a community activist. All of these have strengthened my leadership skills needed to serve as a trustee. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now begin the question period. The first question is directed to all the candidates. Please describe your understanding of the appropriate role of a board member in the management of the school district as compared to the roles of the superintendent, principal, staff, etc. Mr. Ferguson, your 2-minute response, please.
Sure. I think this is a very important question because it's important to acknowledge that the board can't do everything. The board, in my opinion, from my perspective, serves as equal parts administrator and ambassador for the school district. The administrative side sets the budget priorities in collaboration with the community under the new local control funding formula, but also sets the long-term vision for where the school district is going, what the education of 2025 is going to look like. This is the administrative side, as well as overseeing a superintendent and ensuring that the bureaucracy is reflecting this community's priorities. When it comes to the ambassador side, it's important that board members are out in the community, constantly representing the very best of the school district, and most importantly, listening to what's going on each of our school sites. Each school site is a unique community in its own right, and it requires a great deal of work to stay connected to all of those school sites at all times. That also being said, I am extremely focused on vocational programmings. And so as the ambassador side of the board, I'd like to reach out to business owners like never before so that we can really streamline the process from high school graduation to a career. So I believe it's a mixture of administrator and ambassador, and that's truly what I believe the role of a board member is.
Thank you. Dr. Agakanian, your 2-minute response, please.
Thank you. Yesterday, our nation celebrated the life and achievement of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. To answer your question, I would like to start with a quote. The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is one goal, that is the goal of true education. The appropriate role of a board member is to keep our schools on track by setting vision and goals for the school district, which will help our children to think intensively and to think critically, while holding the district accountable for results. The process requires leadership and teamwork. The board, with community input, must work with the superintendent, teachers, principals, parents, and staff to envision the educational future of its community, and then formulate the goals, defining the outcomes, policy framework, and strategies. Furthermore, we must adopt and oversee the annual budget, hire and evaluate the superintendent, and develop and maintain a healthy relationship with key stakeholders while developing an effective communication channels. As someone who has taught courses in management and organizational leadership, both in undergrad and master level, I have a clear understanding of our complex educational system. Furthermore, I have an experience of 2 decades in management and finance. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Reynolds, your 2-minute response, please.
Thank you. The question of the role of board members versus superintendent versus principal in the running of the district is a very important question. It's something that all board members need to keep in mind at all times. The board sets policy, sets vision, advocates for the community, for the students. The superintendent is in charge of the operation of the district. Ideally, the board forms a 6-member governance team with the superintendent, but the superintendent is then responsible for running that district. The one employee that the board does have accountability for is the superintendent, hire, firing, and evaluating. And everything that happens in the district that has to be addressed needs to be addressed with the superintendent. The principals are responsible for running the sites, and they're responsible for running the sites within the constraints of board policy as the superintendent implements it. And something that needs to be kept very, very much in mind is that the board is elected and only has power when sitting at the dais making a decision over an agendized issue. Individual board members do not have any authority over district operations. And in fact, that can become very dysfunctional for both the board and the district if those lines are crossed. So at all times, that balance needs to be maintained for the board overseeing, and the superintendent is responsible.
Thank you. Mr. Tonkapanya, your 2-minute response, please.
Sure. So Roberta hit the nail right on the head. There are over 700 school districts in California. One of the strengths I bring to the table is that I've worked with multiple school districts, not just one. I see school districts that function well and school districts that don't function well. And the reason, and one of the big qualities that I'm looking for in a superintendent is one who can control their operation, the school districts and their sites. Roberta is also correct in that the idea that school district principals should be able to control their own school sites, and teachers need to be able to control their own classrooms and how they manage those classrooms. What a board member's role should not be is if, say, for instance, a parent has a very specific question about their child. They really shouldn't be reaching out to the board member directly. That's not how it's supposed to work. They really should be working through the channels of the district administration. Now, if the district administration is not doing what it's supposed to be doing, then it would be appropriate to bring up to the appropriate board member. I really want to talk about the overall policy. in addition to fiduciary matters, the protection and from threats, it's like student safety is also important for specific board members. And board members should also be safeguarding the finances of the district, in addition to providing the overall vision. I think the bottom line is board members really need to be proactive and not reactive. They really need to be seeking out solutions. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Sousa, your 2-minute response, please.
Thank you very much. And I agree with much of what's been said here. The appropriate role of the board is to provide oversight and direction to the district. However, the person who runs the district is, of course, the superintendent. And it is inappropriate for individual board members or even the board to reach beyond the superintendent. The superintendent serves at the pleasure of the board. And if a change in direction needs to be made, or if the district is not meeting the expectations of the board, then their recourse is through the superintendent. As far as the role of the principal, I think that's been well articulated here. The principals are, of course, in charge of the school sites. However, that's not to say that it's not the role of the individual board member to investigate and to gather information from those within district staff. It is not inappropriate. In fact, it is often the board member's duty to gather information so that appropriate policy can be set and so that problems or issues can be addressed before they have a chance to become worse than they otherwise would be. So that is really the role of the board member, is to inform themselves. They have a fiduciary obligation to do so. And also I would say that the role of the board and the board member is to liaison with the various stakeholders and to keep the public informed. All too often things come up as a surprise. There is nothing that says that the board cannot exercise more avenues of outreach in order to make sure that issues that are going to be before the board are before the public in a timely manner so that the public has a chance to participate in the board's decision-making process.
Thank you. Mr. Hovhanessian, your 2-minute response, please.
Thank you very much. With regard to the appropriate role of a board member, that's codified in law, and I'm not going to recite law. But I'll summarize it for you. Hire and evaluate and fire the superintendent. That's number 1. Number 2, set board policy. Number 3 is approve a curriculum. Number 4 is approve textbooks. And number 5 is to adopt a budget. Generally speaking, that's what the responsibilities of a board member are, generally speaking. Now let's talk about in detail. Hire, fire, and evaluate a superintendent. Well, I hope that my communication is loud and clear. I'm looking to hope for the future superintendent to have instructional background and hopefully a business background, but someone who has a community understanding, who has a clear and precise vision as to what our goals are going to be and how they want the district to proceed. Someone who is sensitive to our community and knows about our community is who I would look for, but definitely instructional background and a business background would be great. With regard to board policy, vision and goals, those are very important because student achievement is what it's all about. You know, I'm running for a seat on the Board of Education to benefit all of our kids. I'm an advocate for kids and public education. You know, I'm going to see satisfaction in seeing that every kid is successful. So how can we do that is by providing opportunities, and the vision and goals of the district are where that's at. Approving curriculum and textbooks, those are committee-based, and I'm happy to work with all the committees, listen, and work with them. And, you know, it's not one person makes a decision or 5 on the board, but there's committees that work with that. And I look forward to that. And adopting a budget, well, that is the tough part, because the budget is a very complicated matter, and we're not really sure exactly how many dollars, but according to the local funding formula, local control funding formula, basically generally 87% of the budget is going to be spent on salary and benefits. 13% is left over for overhead. Now with our situation in Burbank, the local control funding formula, we get basic funds primarily and a little bit of supplemental. I'll get more into that later. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is directed to Dr. Aghakhanian. If the Burbank School District were to realize additional discretionary financial resources, how do you believe the district should prioritize the use of these funds? Please be as specific as possible. Dr. Aghakhanian, your 2-minute response, please.
Recently, when I was working in precincts, I ran into a teacher from another school district who talked about the fact that you know, our teachers in our school district only can receive hikes in their salary if they take additional courses. And I think when we're talking about our students and preparing them for the 21st century and what the markets are out there, we must make sure that our teachers are ready and are up to date in terms of what their requirements are. I think there needs to be money spent when it comes to our teachers to make sure we're preparing them. And there's a gap right now in you know, our teachers, because 10 years ago no one wanted to be a teacher except people like me. Also, I think we need to start concentrating on areas that are required by law. The Common Core area, for example. I know we're spending money from our Measure S bond committee right now, getting the computers in our classroom. But also, in addition to that, the Common Core also requires our teachers to be prepared. And I think that's an area that also we need to look at. Safety of our students is a concern of mine. I think that's something that we need to start addressing more seriously. And overall, again, I'm certain that as a member of the board, along with the rest of the team, we're going to be looking at the areas that we can spend the money when it's needed, because we are talking about the education of our children. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is directed to Ms. Reynolds. Are there additional things the school board should be doing to support teachers and students in implementing the Common Core standards? What specific problems do you believe currently exist which need to be addressed? Ms. Reynolds, your 2-minute response, please.
Okay. There are many challenges in that. I think the primary one is really in professional development, and that's where we've been focusing a good deal of our attention, because this is a different way of approaching. It's a different way for the parents to be approaching and understanding. The amount of focus that we need in communication is really huge in helping the parents to understand and to be able to help their students, because it's a very different way and they're not able to do the same kind of worksheets they did before because it's much deeper thinking. And another area that is important for the Common Core is in technology. The assessments are going to be computer-based and they're interactive, meaning that if the student gets the answer right, they will get a harder question. If they get the answer wrong, they'll get a easier question, so they will be able to calibrate better. With that, all the students have to be computer literate, and one of the biggest challenges at the elementary age is in the typing skills that are needed, which is important to actually focus on those keyboarding skills that many of our students have lost because they knew how to use a computer when they were 2 years old, but they did it like this. So the important thing is going to be allowing those students to understand how they're going to be able to communicate in those assessments and be able to type their answers in.
Thank you. The next question is directed to Mr. Tonkapanya. How do you see the role of the PTA in supporting Burbank schools? Mr. Tonkapanya, your 2-minute response, please.
Well, before the passage of the local control funding formula, it was always a duty of really the school site administrators and the school board to really be reaching out to community members. But now, after the passage of LCFF, everything has changed. Now the structure has become less abstract, more formulaic, and actually structured. Now it is our responsibility to actually reach out to parents and community groups and actually elicit their input. Town hall meetings, e-town hall meetings is something I brought up repeatedly. A lot of folks don't have time to make it to our meetings. If you had an e-town hall meeting, this would be an appropriate, this would be a new avenue for someone that couldn't necessarily make it to a meeting. Under the LCAP, we now have 8 priority areas. Under just a few examples: student achievement, school climate, student outcomes. These are all important things that parents care about. This is why I've been advocating for the restoration of student services. One of those examples would be restoration of some of the office technicians that were let go over the course of the last, do I have 2 minutes or one here? 2, over the last 10 years. Just as an example, restoration of office technicians would really fall under course access and also parental involvement. How? You're probably asking, how is that parental involvement? Well, who's the first person you see when you enter a school site? It's the office technician. They're the smiling person that greets you at the door. They record truancy and they record absenteeism. they're actually the first person to provide someone translation services if they cannot speak English. So these are the types of student services that I want to bring. It's not just the right thing to do, but now codified into law, as Vahe said.
Thank you. The next question is directed to Mr. Souza. Please explain what factors and in what priority you believe the Burbank School District should consider in evaluating its teachers' performance. Mr. Souza, your 2-minute response, please.
As in anything in academia, peer review is the most reliable measure of someone's performance. And so you have the teacher that is assigning grades. Now we need to see if those grades are valid. Again, peer review will play a role in that. We have the state standardized tests that are a tool in measuring that, but I believe that peer review is a more valid measure, and in which the state standardized test scores may be but one factor that's taken into account. The thing with peer review, and especially if it's done in a way that eliminates perhaps for some of the variables and is done anonymously, is well, it's the gold standard. It's what we see in universities. It's what we would expect to see in our high schools, and it's a way of guaranteeing that the results we say we're getting are really valid. So among the factors that I would look at would be the grades that the teacher gives, the test scores that the students have, and some of the perhaps less tangible aspects. We want to look at, of course, how students do once they leave the district. And of course, this is going to be difficult for, say, somebody at the elementary level, but it's just one of the many factors that would come into play. So I would say that that's a multifaceted thing that has to be, where all of these things have to be taken into account. And certainly we need to do that in order to make sure that we have the best teachers available here in Burbank.
Thank you. The next question is directed to Mr. Hovhanessian. How do you see the relationship between the Burbank Teachers Association and the Board of Education? And how can that relationship be strengthened? Mr. Hovhanessian, your 2-minute response, please.
Thank you very much. With regard to my understanding of the current relationship between the Burbank Teachers Association and the Board of Education, with regard to the ongoing negotiations that are year-round, as soon as the contract is passed, it keeps going. To my understanding is that there's a difference, that there's a dollar amount offered and a dollar amount demanded that are significantly apart from each other. And the reason of that, to me, demonstrates that there may be a lack of communication or a lack of transparency with regard to, or a belief that there exists something like that. I unfortunately I'm not elected, so I haven't been in any of the negotiations, but I look forward to, if I'm in those situations, to demonstrate to the Burbank Teachers Association the number of dollars we have. One of my goals is to maximize every education dollar that we have for our kids. In order to do that, I need to have everyone understand where we are, so there's no distrust or a sense of suspicion. The goal is to be transparent and work as a collaborative team. One of my goals, one of my main goals, not the only one, but a few of the first top 3 or 5, is to provide funding for the best educators that we can afford. There's a lot of demands on every education dollar we have, and I think that the relationship between the Teachers Association and the Board of Education should be fostered with transparency, clear, concise, good communication, and an overall sense of teamwork. And I'm not sure exactly where it's at right now or why it's there, but I think I can pull it together, and I think I can bring everyone to the negotiating. That's what I do. I'm an attorney. I'm a practicing litigator. I deal with resolutions all the time. My job is to resolve, and that's what I think I can do with the issues that may exist right now, that I understand do exist. I look forward to the opportunity to serve, and I look forward to working with the Burbank Teachers Association, and I want to thank all the teachers out there. I appreciate it every day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is directed to Mr. Ferguson. As our students graduate, some go directly to four-year colleges, some do not. What is your view on the role of vocational training for these students? Mr. Ferguson, your 2-minute response, please.
Well, as I've been saying, vocation, vocation, vocation. I think we have to do more to build for these students, but there's so many different opportunities that we can really build upon in our school district without breaking the bank, so to speak. I believe that we should be partnering with local businesses and local apprenticeship programs and even unions to provide initial exposure to a variety of different vocational offerings. That's the first thing. And I believe that the second level of courses, so for instance, if you were to take 1 year of auto, that would be more of an exposure course, but that the higher division courses, actually we should partner with local community colleges and trade schools so that those classes are actually counting towards a degree certification or whatever certification is required for that skill set. I believe that we can do more in that realm than we are doing now. I've heard for years school board candidates talk about more vocational programs, and we'll develop the partnerships, and I think that it's about time that we had a board member who really focused on just that and bringing those partnerships back so that our students could succeed.
Thank you. At this time, there's an open round where each candidate can take up to 2 minutes to address any of the forum questions not previously addressed to him or her. Ms. Reynolds, your 2-minute response, please.
Ooh, I'm on the hot seat.
You're on the hot seat.
There were certainly many questions and issues addressed this evening. In the question regarding discretionary funds, I think we have so many things that we have had to put on the back burner in the last 7 to 10 years. We have things that we have reduced. We have our custodial staff. We have positions, aides, clerical staff, technology staff, all that's been reduced, and those things have not yet been replaced. We also have huge needs in all of our programs. As counselors, there are just an unlimited number of ways in which we need to address more. And it's going to have to be a balance because we need all of those things. And quite frankly, I am I'm very happy about the Local Control Accountability Plan and the input of the stakeholders because it gives an opportunity. And I better speed this up. In terms of the role of the PTA, I think it's also important to remember that the role of the PTA is primarily advocacy and advocating for our students, educating our parents to be advocates for their students and advocates at the state level. That's the role of the PTA, and the role of the PTA is also in helping to advocate for including all of our parents and students in participating and feeling welcome in our schools. And on the relationship between BTA and the Board of Education, I think the BTA is more than just negotiations. It's also the professional association. And what's really important there is understanding, communication, and listening. And my role has always been to listen more than I talk, and I try to listen to everyone. And I think that's the role to building a relationship with BTA. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tangapanya, your 2-minute response, please.
Sure. In terms of the relationship of BTA, it's also really CSTA as well. Under the new local control funding formula, it's now required under the law. We actually have to meet with the stakeholders. It's codified now in addition to the PTA, including stakeholders subject to the proportionality rule of the supplemental grant. We did actually receive a substantial amount, 3.7%, $3.7 million in the 14-15 year and $5 million in the 15-16 year. This is the type of experience I really want to bring to the school board because I see multiple school districts. I can find inefficiencies in school district budgets. Just as an example, in the 2009, for under the subject code line 4,000, under the SACS form that we send to the county, we've budgeted $2.9 million in books and supplies in the school year of 10-11. Think about that, $2.9 million. We spent 1.6 with an excess revenue of 1.3. In the 11-12, 2.8 and 2.1 with an excess of 0.6, $600,000. I know that's kind of going over, but the point I'm trying to make is the last 4 years, we have over budgeted and underspent, giving the appearance that we have less money than we really do. That over the course of the last 10 years, we've been slashing student services now required under the law, under LCFF. As Roberta said, we had half of our maintenance staff slashed in half. We've had half of our, actually not half, excuse me, all of our instructional assistants eliminated. Where has the work gone? The work has gone on the backs of the teachers and it's hurt the students. This is what I want to do. I want to restore the student services, and this is what I bring to the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sousa, your 2-minute response, please.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Takpanya, for raising the very sort of issue that should be raised by a board member. These are the sort of things that I think of when I say we should have accountability, when we should have vigilance and a fiduciary inquiry into the operations of the district. Some of the other issues that were raised earlier, the outreach that's envisioned and codified in the LCFF is good, but does it go far enough? I'm thinking of teachers that I've experienced that send an email out every week saying, here's what we are going to be studying this week. Here's the homework that I am going to be sending home with your child. You might want to take a look at it. That's real direct parental involvement, and that's the kind of involvement I'm more in favor of. The LCFF really is intimidating, I believe, to some parents who may not have the time or the inclination to participate in something as formalized as that. We need to have a policy that encourages teachers to reach out, and through the superintendent encourages our teachers to reach out in the ways I've just described. That's the way to get parents involved. The role of the PTA. The PTA is all too often looked at as another fundraising arm, when in fact it really is a voice for parents, and I'm not sure that voice is always heard, especially at the district level. Perhaps overlooked in all of this is that we still have 30%, sometimes more, of our students who are performing, I should say underperforming, who are not testing at proficient levels. It's not always that complicated. Education is about getting the student motivated to learn for themselves, giving them a thirst to learn, and we need to encourage that. We need to have administrators and teachers who foster that. The test scores will take care of themselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Hovnessian, your 2-minute response, please.
Thank you very much. There are many questions, and I wish I had more than 2 minutes. But with regard to the vocational training, just the last board meeting I was there, Nickelodeon and our schools, we're working together. What a wonderful opportunity that is for everyone that's involved. How about the Verdugo Workforce Investment Board that's part of a joint collaboration with multiple cities here? There's various vocational aspects that we need to provide in terms of opportunities for our children and our kids, so they don't have to feel as though they have to go to college or there's no options. We need technology, media-related, vocational, health-related. There's a lot of various industries that require vocational training, and we're perfectly set up to do it, and information technology being one of them. Now, with regard to the factors inevitably involving teachers' performance, well, depending on what are we looking at? Are we testing now? Is it based on tests, or what does a collective bargaining agreement work on? With respect to how do I see the role of the PTA in supporting, I am a member of the PTA. The PTA is advocates for the kids. The PTA is not there for themselves. They're there for, everybody's there for the kids. And without the PTA, a lot of good things wouldn't be here. So I appreciate everyone who's involved with the PTA and the hard work they do. There was a question with regard to additional resources. How would I spend it? Safety, as well as increasing student achievement. Boosters at schools should not be paying for safety radios. That should be provided. And so if there was extra funds, I definitely would want to have certain safety issues addressed that the school boosters, for example, are paying for now in certain circumstances. We also need to increase booster participation. Now, with regard to the implementation of Common Core, there are certain issues that we need to deal with involving languages, typing, and K-3 mathematics. We'll get into that if I had more time. VoteVahed.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ferguson, your 2-minute response, please.
Sure. I'm going to attempt to tackle two. What is the role of the PTA, and then what is the relationship with BTA? And I'm also going to tie in the Classified School Employees Association as well, which is our other bargaining group. I believe that our PTA has exceptional leaders that, frankly, we don't take full advantage of, in the sense that they have so much talent and so much to contribute. And so what I actually believe in doing in the school district, is creating a system of shared governance where we have committees of the district that are comprised of parents, teachers, students, and classified employees who evaluate policies before they get to the board level. I believe that by doing that, we actually minimize the number of crises that hit the board's decks, and we allow for a full vetting and conversation of all policies so that people aren't surprised. I think what I hear more than anything is as the board makes decisions, people feel left out and they don't feel heard. And I think it's really important for the board to facilitate that dialogue within its own structure, but also to be very proactive in reaching out to all those who are involved. So shared governance is something that I believe has to come to Burbank Unified in order to succeed and to develop a long-term vision for the future. When it comes to if we had all the money in the world, and I absolutely support class size reduction, that is something that I believe is critical and it needs to be done. And guess what? The state's mandating it anyway. So K through 3 class size reduction to 1 to 24 is mandated by 2020. So if we had all of our other obligations met, that is something that I would like to focus on.
Thank you. And Dr. Aghakhanian, your 2-minute response, please.
Thank you very much. I'd like to actually go to the vocational training part and tie it to the question that you asked me about the additional resources. I've been teaching at Woodbury University for the past 9 years, and my newest role at Woodbury University is educational partnership specialist. And when people talk about vocational programs and bringing schools into the program, that's what I do for a living. A great example, a great example would be what's being done right now at Long Beach. It's called the Long Beach Pathway Promise Program. It's a seamless education program, and now in LA it's called Go East, and that's what I'm doing right now with Woodbury University. I think in order for our students to not only be ready to go to college or university or receive vocational training, we must create a guarantee program. And that's what I'm doing right now with the LAUSD and LA Community College system. In order to make this seamless program work well, we need to get the parents involved early. And going back to the additional resources, we need to increase the numbers of our counselors in our schools. And the Pathway program actually prepares counselors, trains them, so they're getting our students ready for the program. Just to give you an idea, I was at Arleta High School the other day, 96% graduation rate. Guess how many counselors they have? 6 at one location, where our own district only has 5. And also, we need to identify projects in our district and create partnerships. The LA High-Tech Fund right now, which we got a small part of, it's a $35 million program that's sitting out there. We need to bring those dollars to our school district and to create partnerships. Because what's currently happening, for example, with our budget cuts, is that we're going to be when the budget comes up, we're probably going to lose some of our programs because the governor wants to switch some of the funding, like adult education, to the college program. In order to make this right, we need to be smart about it. We need to save money, but also we need to create partnerships. Thank you very much.
The candidates will now have 2 minutes each for their closing statements. Mr. Ferguson, your closing statement, please.
Sure, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum this evening. I'd be remiss if I didn't take this moment to really honor the service of Ted Bunch and Dave Kemp, who served our school district with a great deal of dignity and for many years, and they've been, in their own right, mentors to me. And so what we have now is a major void that we have to fill. And there's I'm not going to stand here and say that I can fill Dave or Ted's shoes. But what I can say is that I've got a pair of my own, and they're ready to run every single day for these students because they deserve nothing less. We have, for the first time, thanks to their leadership, an ability to build and grow and innovate in our public education system like never before. What we need, though, are workhorses and not show horses on the Board of Education. I'm a workhorse, and I cannot wait to get started. So I humbly ask for your vote of support. I am so proud to have the endorsement of our teachers, our classified employees, as well as Burbank's mayor, as well as former mayor, Mary Lou Howard, who made history in her own right. So I'm so excited to get to work, but I need your votes to get there. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Aghakhanian, your closing statement, please.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this event and for all of our audience and viewers staying up late and listening to us. Just like any other parent in Burbank, me and my wife Guyana want our 3-year-old son to have the best education opportunities available to him at our public education system. There is a reason why we call Burbank home, to raise our family, but also to give back to the community. Because we believe in our city and in our public education system. But our public education system can only thrive if people like you and me roll up our sleeves and get involved. I have over, again, 15 years of experience in the field of education and public service. I understand how the education system works, not only in a local level, but also in a state level. That is why I've received the endorsement of not only of our majority of school board members and 7 mayors, former mayors and council members, but also Tom Turlickson, the superintendent of our public education, Senator Carol Liu, who is now the chair of California's Education Committee, our own assembly member, and the chair of Los Angeles Community College Board of Trustees, Mr. Scott Swankin. Because education is my passion. I spent 6 years, writing my dissertation. And during my dissertation, I did an interesting study. One of my publications along with my cohorts was Women in Leadership, the Transformative Challenge and Ongoing Development for the 21st Century. This was presented at the International Society of Education. I also went to Mexico as part of my cohort and did a study on leadership of women in Mexico along with my Pepperdine students. I'm someone who cares about education. I understand how the education system works, and I will be honored to receive your support and vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Reynolds, your closing statement, please.
Thank you. Most of all, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity this evening and for everybody who is still listening to us. I have been a lifetime resident, and I have been committed to our community and our schools for all of my adult life. I do have 2 daughters who have come through these schools, but right now I have a nephew in one of our schools, and I have a baby grandson, yes, I'm a very proud grandmother, who will be entering our schools in the next 5 years. So I have a personal investment. But most of all, I learned through all of my work with the PTA that the most important thing is every child in one voice. It's advocating for all of our students and giving everyone the opportunity. We have had the opportunity to maintain so many things in this district because we have been able to work with our community and develop partnerships. And one of the roles of a board member is to be a role model, and that is to engage all the people in our community, not just the people who have children in our schools, because investment in education is investment for all of us. So I would humbly ask for the voters to allow me to continue, because I do have experience, and that experience is going to be very important. We're losing a tremendous amount of experience in Mr. Kemp and Mr. Bunch, who have spent 40 years each, not only in our schools, but in our community. And I humbly ask for your support that I might continue the leadership that we've developed. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Mr. Tangapanya, sure. Your closing statement, please.
Excuse me. I had to finish off pretty fast in that last, so I just want to wrap that up. But I just want to be very clear and unambiguous on this. The intent, I'm not questioning the intent and the character of anyone in the district administration. These are hardworking folks. What I am saying, though, is when you are dealing with so much money, $100 million, waste and excess just happens sometimes. Sometimes it's not anybody's fault, which is what I bring to the table. I deal every day with multiple school districts, hundreds of millions of dollars. I find this and I catch it. Everybody here is a very experienced candidate. I really appreciate the fact that both Roberta and Stephen were born and raised here, or you were here for a long time, and that brings a lot to the table. I appreciate that Armand and Greg are parents. Everyone can bring something to the table, but I can bring something too. Ask yourself this. Anytime you deal with an organization with over $100 million budget, there should always be at least one candidate on that governing board not exclusively have been born, raised, or educated within that system, and I'm that candidate. I hope you give me a chance. My name's Jesse Tankapanya. I go by Jesse Tank. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Souza, your closing statement, please.
Thank you very much. We've all heard that Burbank has a reputation for strong schools, and that a reputation is well deserved. But if we're going to keep that reputation, we are going to have to continue to earn that reputation. That's why many of the things that have been said here ring very true. We need to encourage community involvement. We need to bring the parents in and the larger community. That's why programs like the Workforce Training Program are such a good idea, because they will give all of the stakeholders more of an ownership interest in what happens at the district. The local control funding formula, the LCAP, these are all good programs, good ideas to encourage that sort of cooperation and involvement. But we can go beyond that. Is the LCCF enough? Is the LCFF enough? Is the LCAP enough? Perhaps not. And one need only turn to the board policies to see some of the grander aspirations that we have for our district. A student in the district, according to board policy, will have a sense of identity and cultural heritage, will have a thirst for knowledge, will have an appreciation for the performing arts, will think critically and creatively, and will make responsible and informed decisions. And that's what we need to aspire to. I don't see those so much in some of the state mandated programs. But what we're really trying to do here is we're trying to integrate our children and prepare them for the world that they will soon inherit. And that's why I advocate going beyond the state standards. That's why I advocate having a board that will push the district to do more, that will hold the superintendent responsible for more. So that is my role. I see myself as an outside candidate who is not afraid to ask tough questions at a board meeting, and that's what my role would be on the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Hovannessian, your closing statement, please.
I will ensure that we incorporate 21st century learning styles into our curriculum. I have been and will continue to have schools, to work towards having schools that are safe and well maintained. I support and will work to strengthen our arts education, our arts plan. No one brought that issue up. I will seek the preparation and implementation of a comprehensive strategic plan for the maintenance and support of equipment and technologies that are presently in use and to be implemented in the near future. I will work to further improve student achievement to meet UC and CSU entrance requirements. I know that we must increase effective communication with community leaders, parents, and students. I will always have an open door policy, and I will listen to all suggestions and ideas. There are many issues that face our students and our teachers, and I will work collaboratively with teachers, parents, staff, and fellow board members to ensure that every student is equipped to enter college or the workforce. I have a child that attends Burbank schools. In school now. I drop them off in the mornings, I pick them up some of the afternoons, and I have a daughter who's about to go. I have kids in the school, my finger's on the pulse. I'm a PTA member, I'm a booster, and I'm going to be involved with schools for a long, long time, and I've already been involved with the district alone for 5 years on the old bond and this new bond, the leverage funds from the last bond. It is my honor, the outpouring of support that I've received for my campaign thus far. It is tremendous and speaks volumes. I wish to thank the endorsements I've received from current school board members, Larry Applebaum, Charlene Tabbitt, Dave Kemp, Ted Bunch, current mayor, Dr. David Gordon, current council member, Jess Talamantes, former mayors, Dave Golonsky, Michael Hastings, former Board of Education members, Pete McGrath, Audrey Hansen, Elena Hubble, John Dillibert. Thank you, Mary Alvord, and thank you everyone else. You can visit votevahe.com to see what they have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This concludes our candidate forum. We're grateful to Drew Sugars, the Burbank Public Information Officer, and the staff of the Burbank Channel, Walter Lutz and Zanin Zulchevich, for their valuable support in making this event possible. If you want to talk to the candidates personally about issues that concern you, join us at the candidate meet and greets being held around Burbank. The first of these will be Monday, January 26th at Bellarmine Jefferson High School. Then Monday, February 9th, Burbank High School Library. Wednesday, February 11th at the Westminster Presbyterian Church. And Wednesday, February 18th at Burroughs High School Library. For more information, call the city clerk's office or visit the city website or the league's website. And we have flyers here tonight. Our thanks to the candidates and volunteers for participating in this evening's forum. The League of Women Voters of Glendale Burbank would also like to thank both our audience in attendance and those of you at home. Please be sure to mail in or drop off your ballot so that it is postmarked or received by February 24th. Thank you and good night.